Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee's online worship service. I'm Reverend Jennifer Nordstrom, and I'm honored to serve as the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee's senior minister. We welcome people of all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit. We welcome all you're bringing with you today and all your heart longs to set down. We'd like to pay a special welcome to guests who are joining us today. If you're visiting for the first time or joining us from afar, why don't you say hello in the chat now and tell us where you're joining us from? I welcome everyone into our worship service by inviting you to repeat our first church mission after me. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. Let's go now to our beloved sanctuary to light the chalice, which is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism.
Good morning. My name is Miles Schuler, and I have the pleasure of serving as worship associate today. I would consider myself a good dancer, in the right circumstances. Dancing at a bar with my friends, I'm pretty good. The minute you try and teach me a particular dance, however, I trip over myself. The closest thing I've had to formal dance training was a tap dance teacher who came to my elementary school a few times a month. His task was to teach one specific tap routine to all the students. It was short and repetitive, using just a few tap techniques. Seemed simple enough. What made it intimidating was that most of the kids in my class had already learned part of it the year before. I was a first-year transfer student at the time, starting in 4th grade instead of 3rd, and was hyper-aware of how unfamiliar I was with the rhythms of my new school. Starting out learning the dance wasn't too bad. I was able to catch on to the individual steps. But, like a little kid learning a new word, it fell apart the minute I tried to put the pieces together. Now, as a 9-year-old, it didn't take much to get frustrated with things I couldn't do. I can't remember what we were learning in class at the time, but I do remember coming home one day and complaining to my mom about this dance. There was no point. It was too hard. I can't do it. I went to sleep that night convinced I was never going to get it. The next morning, as I was waking up, I had a dream that I was doing the dance. It woke me up. I was so excited. I jumped out of bed and did it right in my bedroom. I ran downstairs to show my mom. I could not believe I finally got it. This anecdote has a permanent spot in my memory. It comes up when I get frustrated trying to learn new things or start to lose faith in myself. Reminds me that sometimes you can only find success when you stop looking for it.
yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. One morning in 1964, Paul McCartney woke up in his girlfriend's parents' attic apartment with a melody in his head. He told biographer Barry Miles that he thought, "That's great. I wonder what that is." There was an upright piano next to me, he said, to the right of the bed, right by the window. So I got out of bed, sat at the piano, and found G, found F sharp minor seventh. And that leads you through then to B, to E minor, and finally back to E. It all leads forward logically. I liked the melody a lot, but because I dreamed it, I couldn't believe that I had written it. So for the next month, Paul went around to a bunch of different people in the music industry and sang the melody for them, asking them if they had heard it before and where. He thought that maybe he had heard it somewhere and then had dreamed what he had heard. But person after person said, "Paul, I'm sorry, I don't recognize that tune." Eventually, Paul McCartney believed that it was his own dream composition, and he started working with the Beatles to create the song Yesterday. A 2006 study in the National Library of Medicine showed that musicians dream of music more than twice as much as non-musicians. Even more interestingly, half of the music that musicians dreamed about was unfamiliar and new to them, suggesting that we can indeed compose music in our dreams. Other dream studies have shown that we can also solve creative problems in our dreams. A 2009 study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences showed that REM sleep improved people's ability to recognize connections and to integrate unrelated information, and then use that to solve creativity-based work problems. The people in the study who took naps that resulted in REM sleep performed better on creative problem-solving tests than the control groups who had either quiet awake rest or those who slept but did not have REM sleep. REM sleep is where you dream. So what is the relationship between consciousness and creativity? Work in psychology and neuroscience isn't sure what the primary role of dreaming is yet, and theories range from it being a creative problem-solving process to simply being a byproduct of the biochemical and electrical processes that happen in the brain when we sleep. Despite the unresolved why of dreaming, though, there is evidence of what dreaming does. Studies have shown that REM dreams help us with creative problem solving, with learning, and with processing painful or dissociative emotions. According to the emotional processing theory, dreaming creates space for the mind to process feelings that in waking life are too overwhelming or contradictory. The mind in REM sleep becomes a creative problem solver for the heart by processing information in unique ways, including through changing characters, the ability to safely experience other viewpoints, and to move back and forth between a sense of me and not me in our dreams. When I was young, my family was on the receiving end of a hate crime that shattered my safety and my sense of safety and justice. For years, I was filled with rage and I struggled to understand how to love or trust in a world that could be so cruel. Now, don't worry. I want to assure you I have done my healing work in this area. This experience is well and healthily processed. And part of how I healed is I fell asleep, literally. In my early 20s, I had a dream that changed everything. At the beginning of this dream, a man was attacking a family member. I was able to draw him away from my family, but then he started to attack me. I tried to defend myself and I failed. Eventually, I learned how to hit back and my defensive blows finally landed. The man backed off, but at that point, I moved into anger and I pursued him, and what had been defense turned into offense. He fell, and I stood over him, beating him. A crowd gathered around us, and very quietly, a woman said, "Do you really want to do that?" And I turned and screamed with so much rage, "Yes." But at the same time, a smaller voice inside me said, "No, no, I don't." I turned back to the man, and his face had changed to mirror my own face, and I saw our mutual humanity. I put out my hand and I lifted the now young woman up, and we walked out into Dreamland together, arm in arm. When I woke up from this dream, I felt a peace I had not known since the experience of violence. I felt forgiveness for the person who had hurt my family, but it was a strange kind of forgiveness. It wasn't cognitive. And on that level, I didn't forgive him. But on a deeper spiritual level, I did. It was as though the dream had tapped into a reservoir of spiritual understanding much deeper than cognitive processing. It allowed me to move forward in a new way with so much rage and pain just drained out of my body. The workings of the mind, body, spirit are mysterious. Their interconnection and relationship is strange. At times, it means that trauma gets lodged deeply in us. And at other times, it means that healing happens in strange, nonlinear ways. We're not in total control of our own processing, and we don't have to do it all with intense labor. Sometimes healing rises up from beyond or deep within us, from the creativity of our own minds, from dreamland, from our subconscious. While we're not in control of it, we can set ourselves up for healing. Sleep is one of the most healing modalities at our disposal. Body-based trauma therapy can also come in sideways at the unique way traumatic memories are stored. You can line yourself with the healing balms that are available, and then you just have to give the process time and space and patience and grace. These processes do work. Weirdly, and slowly, and then sometimes suddenly in a surprising revelation or transformation. I know sleep is not always or equally available to everyone, and life events from intense stress to aging to infants can disrupt or limit access to sleep. Luckily, it's not only dreams that connect our consciousness with a deeper and more mysterious knowing. There's also a creative interplay between cognitive thought and more complex subconscious processing that happens when we're awake, but resting. Several different neurological studies have found that creative insight, the insight that comes from putting together disparate information and coming up with something new, that happens in the back of the brain, in the brainstem. Brain scans show that when these sort of aha moments happen, the neocortex, the front part of the brain that's responsible for logic and regular thinking, goes quiet for a little bit while the back of the brain, the stem, works out the problem. In 2001, neuroscientist Marcus Raichle termed this back of the brain work the default mode network. The default mode network uses almost 20 times the resources as the neocortex. It works more slowly underneath your conscious mind, but it has more creative power. And when it comes up with an answer, that answer is pushed up into the front of the brain and arrives fully formed in our consciousness. Default mode network happens when the neocortex, the frontal brain, is resting. So it happens when we daydream or meditate or put our brain on autopilot somehow. For some people, that might happen when they're taking a walk or when they're showering or staring out the window. It could be something that you do intentionally, or it could be gardening or driving. The key is really to just let the thinking mind go quiet for a little bit. In the book, Quantum Change, Professor William Miller interviews 55 people who experienced life-changing revelations. The majority of the people reported that these realizations felt like a message received or revealed rather than something that they had thought of themselves. In a 2015 conversation with Psychology Today, Miller said that the transformations also often moved the subjects towards a more ethical worldview, quote, from selfishness to compassion, or from an ethic of power to an ethic of care. Miller said, it's as though they got a fast forward in self-actualization and their values changed. The epiphany that these people experienced, the revelation, felt like a dam breaking and a new, usually pro-social understanding bursting forth. There is a creative, problem-solving, healing, self-actualizing dynamic between our rational thought and dreamland, be it literal dreaming or daydreaming, the brain at rest. While we can't control it, we can tap into this reservoir of wisdom through rest, through literally sleeping or through resting our minds while awake. Unfortunately, we've inherited a Puritan work ethic that encourages going at any problem head on and working it, doing until it's done. Moreover, in our modern age of endless entertainment and distraction, even our downtime isn't really downtime. Instead of going into the resting brain's default mode network while waiting for something, we check our smartphones. Instead of letting our mind wander in the car, we listen to podcasts. Instead of just sitting at home and daydreaming, we are on the computer or watching television or posting on social media. If we choose to do so, we're able to consume every single extra minute of default mode network brain resting time. Instead of giving our mind downtime to do the undercover work of insight, we're setting our neocortex on an already programmed media track that's often studded with violence or anxiety or despair. Now, it's important to acknowledge that there are good reasons that we turn to these various medias during downtime. They're developed for pleasure and they give our brains rewards for using them. We enjoy them, and that's not a bad thing. Additionally, default mode network can be a place of anxiety. The back brain helps us solve problems. And that means sometimes it tries to solve a problem too hard and can spiral into anxiety. If you're stressed about something, an untended resting brain might just be a place of worry, something that we want to avoid. And so we go into these media of distraction. This is one of the reasons we work to develop a spiritual practice. Meditation, for instance, focuses the mind on something. It could be breath or maybe an image or a repeated phrase, focusing the brain on something to help it power down without spiraling into anxiety. Practicing meditation strengthens the mind's capacity to get into this quiet state rather than an anxious state. Our brains need resting time. They need processing time to heal and create. If we develop practices to give ourselves that, we will reap the benefits of the mysterious power of the deep mind. We are capable of becoming more healed, more whole, more fully actualized, pro-social people. And we're not alone in the process of getting there. The mysterious deep mind will accompany us, will even leap up for us if we put ourselves in its path of healing through sleep, through resting the mind, and through spiritual practice. May you rest, dear ones. Dreamland is waiting for you. May it be so, and amen. It has been a blessing to be together. May you go out from here nourished and renewed, and use that to choose to bless the world. Until we meet again, may you be held, may you be healed, may you be whole. Blessed be, and amen.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going. We know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah.